Welcome to the Grow and Expand with S podcast, the #1 podcast for female founders and entrepreneurs ready to create wildly successful businesses and doing that without sacrificing the freedom-based lifestyle that they started it all for. And here at Grow and Expand with S, we know that the only real way to do and achieve that is not through our current self-identity, but rather to step into our next level, higher self-identity and creating and claiming our lives and our businesses from her. And so today's topic is probably on this highest self-identity topic, where consistently when you start choosing to create life and create, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, whether it's personally, from this highest self-identity, what essentially happens is you get pulled towards something or you get pushed away from something, and then you have to choose whether you're going to honor it and then take embodied action. And sometimes all that is needed is embodied action. And at other times, what is needed is really deep inner healing so that you can actually take that embodied action. And so today really has fuck all to do with business and growing your business, though I have no doubt at some point in time it's going to greatly benefit the business side of things. But really today is a personal journey that I want to share about and talk about. Because as we know, I am the mother, I am the queen of my own life, I am the director of my business. And so whatever impacts me as a person has a natural flow-on effect through everything I am creating and spaces where I'm showing up as. And so the personal topic I suppose I'm talking about today is what has led me to go on a deep healing 5-day retreat with my original coach, Maz de la Serna. She is just absolutely phenomenal. I recently joined her in Bali for a 5-day retreat. It's my first deep healing retreat that I've done with her since my burnout and breakdown 5 years ago, where obviously I started following my highest self. My current self was in total burnout and rock bottom. And at that stage, I started following my higher self and came across Maz, and her deep healing work through breathwork and energy clearing just totally transformed my life. I've consistently since then practiced breathwork and energy clearing on almost every pattern that comes up. And mostly I can do that on my own, and where I've needed her support, I could do it with one-off sessions here and there. But recently I found myself in a really, really vulnerable stage, and I'm going to delve into it in a second. Can you tell I'm just trying to really avoid getting there? Where I knew willpower alone wasn't enough for me to embody that next level higher self. What was needed was way beyond willpower, and that was to go into and heal the origin wound. And so what triggered that? What sparked that? Well, after many, many years of smoking and then after that vaping, I quit. And I had quit 1,000,001 times before. It is an addiction that I carried it had such a big hold on me that words can't really describe it, but it owned me. It absolutely owned me. And as I started my personal development journey, I could break pattern after pattern. I could take leap after leap. Nothing was impossible. In fact, everything was possible, but except I tried over and over again to quit vaping, and I couldn't fucking do it. Couldn't. And that really rattled me, and it really concerned me, because there was this thing that no matter how much I believe in the work, because it has helped me turn my entire life around, when it came to a substance, vaping in this instance, I couldn't conquer it. Not with obviously zero skills before I started personal development, then I definitely couldn't conquer it. That was not the only substance I was addicted to at the time, and it was, I suppose, the last one left. And no matter what tools, no matter what skills, no matter what I just couldn't do it. But I knew, obviously, the one I was circling around and the one I was running away from it was deep inner healing that was required. Like vaping, smoking, that pattern, it is so deeply rooted in my story since childhood. There are so many traumas. There are so many experiences that are painful and incredibly destroying around that I just knew I didn't want to go there. And so in the back of my mind, I'm trying this, I'm trying that, I'm trying to do it on my own. I'm trying everything except the one thing I knew and know I would need to do, which is obviously go and heal the root pattern. And anyways, earlier this year, as I grow and expand into that higher self, it's that thing in the back of your mind where this is not aligned, this is not embodied, you've got to let it go. I don't care what truth your current self is trying to spin to you. I don't care what truth like backfills your current self or your ego self tells you. This doesn't impact how you show up as a mother. This doesn't impact how you show up in business and your magnetic energy. This doesn't, given everything you've given up to date, how far you've come, look at all the beautiful things you do. You deserve something, like whatever that fucking message is. That's a part of you. That's called your current self. I know her very well. I love her dearly. There is a much deeper, wiser part of you, and I'm also very acquainted with my higher self, so they are both as loud as each other, you need to ditch it, and I'm going to make this as uncomfortable for you as I possibly can. And you're like, your current self will try to run circles and just not get anywhere near it, and your higher self will keep pulling, and at some stage, you just got to make the call. Anyways, earlier this year, we obviously moved as a family from Queensland to Perth, and that actually brought up, surprisingly, a whole bunch of other wounds around immigration to Australia when I was 13. And I started delving into them as they come up, and that's when I just really heard and felt in my body about the vaping again. Like I just knew that I had to walk the road. And so I actually started earlier this year. And anyways, finally went to this retreat, worked on issues and wounds that left me feeling incredibly vulnerable and raw and exposed. But it was the most beautiful experience because at the end of the day, healing is just so healing. Healing is just so beautiful. Healing is just so connecting. Healing is just so raw and so beautiful and so wonderful because it's you going into a place that you've been carrying your whole life, and you're going in there and you're facing it head on, you're nurturing on it and you're loving on it and you're supporting on it and you're showing up for yourself. And that is just so fucking transformative that, yes, here we are. Anyway, I felt really called to share that journey on social media, which I did. Didn't really want to do. Current self wasn't vibing. Higher self was like, definitely share. And I can see why. I had so many people reach out. I had so many people ask questions and comment and show love and support and interest and being activated almost is what I'd like to describe that as. Like people activated based on that. And so I started saying, okay, I'll get your questions to me and I'll try and like filter them in and then do videos on them. And then it came to me, I'll do a podcast on it. And so that was the background. And today I'm just going to delve into and answer some of those questions. And I've reframed some of them to try and work a few together because we don't have forever. And I feel like this is a topic where you could probably go forever, but not one that I really particularly enjoy going on. Okay, so one of the questions was, how did you know you were ready? And I think I touched on that in my prelude. Long before you're willing to admit, long before you take the steps. And this obviously isn't just vaping. Surprisingly, a lot of the comments are around the addiction aspect and obviously then how the healing could help the addiction. But what I want everyone who's watching to really know is this healing work is how you heal the wounds that hold you back from that highest self in any category. It's the version that holds you back in showing up in motherhood in the way that you desire. It's the wounds you heal and how you heal them that holds you back in how you freely express your voice and show up in marketing or with clients or pitching your services. It's how you heal the things that allows you to put that pressure on yourself and that pace and that expectation and that perfectionism and that like crushingness that just makes you feel like you've got to perform and do everything right and good and go, go, go. it is the same process that you go through in healing all of those blocks and all of those wounds that essentially stops you from showing up as that highest version that is just totally fucking limitless, right? So it's the same journey, except you can almost do it with your eyes closed once you've built the muscle, on business blocks, on motherhood blocks, maybe comme c'est que ça, like a little bit, like that can also be tricky sometimes, that element. Expression blocks, marketing, holding back from like your creativeness versus like over logic. Those things are so easy compared to there's always going to be one or two or three really big ones. And then, of course, vaping for me was the biggest one. So 5 years ago, I probably started the journey, but I could not have healed it. I couldn't. I know. I tried so many times. And so I have such a big muscle for this now. And now I was ready for the vaping, healing the wound. But it's not just, it doesn't have to be just in an addiction sense, I suppose, was my message there. So how did you know you were ready? It doesn't have to be in an addiction sense. There's a part of you right now that if there's something that you know you want to move towards or that you want to move away from, toxic relationships, or towards a more freer, leave that career, leave that boss, leave that relationship, leave that friendship, or show up differently in your relationship with your children, or create your own business journey, or put your hand up for that speaking opportunity, or write that book, whatever it may be. You're ready long before you know you're going to admit that you're ready. Your higher self will consistently be talking to you and reminding you, and your current self will consistently push back and try to justify every logical reason why it's not possible and try to self-sabotage you. The enabler will come out. The fear-based will come out. But eventually you will get to a point where you'll move. And when you're at that point, you'll know. And so I wholeheartedly knew that when I put that vape down the last time, guys, I cannot explain to you how many times. It's so demoralizing. It's so pathetic is the word that comes to my mind. But obviously I've met that part in me and it's not pathetic, but that's just the word that comes through. It's so, I don't know, that the amount of times I would say I was going to stop, and then I would just, before you know it, I was just so hungry that I would just like inhale it almost. Like I had no control, no self-control. And so when I put that vape down the last time, did I know at that time I was never going to pick it up again and that I wasn't going to fall back into the pattern of quitting for a week and then picking it up? No, I didn't. I just knew that I was committed to the journey no matter what it took, and that every time I took that next best step, I was going to take the next best step no matter what. And that was probably a key mindset difference for me, that I wasn't worrying about whether I'm going to quit or not, like the end game. I was just committed to putting it down now and committed to at every step to follow my higher self. Every step, follow my higher self, if that makes sense. So then another question was deep healing really necessary? Fuck yes. So there's so many comments that I have around this question. Is that really necessary? A lot of people's comments was framed in different ways and more around somatics and nervous system regulation can combat that types of triggers and wounds as I describe them, and that you don't need to do the deep inner healing work. And I can't comment because I can't comment on something that I haven't experienced myself. But for me, I know that if there is a higher level of me and a next level of me, whether that's starting up the podcast, whether that's speaking on big stages, whether that's actually leaving my corporate law firm and just freeballing it and going, I believe in something bigger than that, and that I'm going to stop working 40 hours, start working 25 hours, not make less money much, spend more time with my kids and have a freedom life where I just chill literally 50% of the time. When I knew those things and I set out to do them, that requires you to embody a version of you that doesn't exist yet, right? Like the current version of you is doing things completely different. And there is no motherfucking way in this world that version of me could have embodied that next level version of me without doing the deep inner healing work that got to the core wound of what was actually in the pattern, that was making me show up in a certain way and disallowing me from showing up in the other way, identifying that emotion and the energies associated with that core wound, releasing it through breath work and energy clearing. There is no way that I could have broken any of those things. And if I ever doubted that before, there is no way I would have been able to stop vaping without that retreat and going into that origin wound again. And I'll tell you a little bit why. Because that ties into the next question. What were the deeper wounds or beliefs underneath the vaping? I don't feel comfortable going into it too much. It's very tender and it's very vulnerable. But essentially, when you are going into the origin of a wound that's that deep, you really go into the version of you that existed when the need, the emotion, the vulnerability, the pain, the grief, the confusion, the hurt arose, and you looked around and there was not one person to hold you. There was not one person to soothe you. There was not one person to give you safety, warmth, or any sort of depth. And all there was you seeing how others were soothing themselves, and mainly through cigarettes. And that relief you saw in them every time they did it, that then creates that. Then when you're going into that wound and you're bringing that up and you're realizing how alone you were in it, and now you're in it. And then through those breathwork sessions, my throat chakra is just closing up. It is hurting. It feels like something stuck in my throat. Isn't that so insane? Speaking up about this, I'm going to get some water. Yeah, it's super tender. Super, super, super tender. When you finally sit with that little girl, and particularly like you're doing it through breathwork. So here's the key thing. It's not the mental healing. It's that you bring it all up and then you do an hour and a half consciously connected breath that takes you totally out of your mind and into your subconscious. And you're clearing the energies out of your body, guided by spirit, your higher self, and obviously the facilitator that facilitates that and houses that. And you rewire those patterns. You bring them up, you feel them, you process them in that moment. You process them in a way that I can't explain to you now. And you release them, like literally out of your body. You feel as you release. When you've done that, every time you're tempted again, and perhaps in the past willpower was not a thing, right? So willpower might have gotten you a week or a week and a half, but then at some point, that part in you that just goes, nah, fuck it, I need this, we can't survive without this, let's go. Like almost panicked without it and just goes and gets it. That part was always stronger. But after you've gone in and you sat with that girl like that and cleared it, it's twofold. One, that loadedness is less, because that's what the breathwork and energy clearing and healing does. It literally dulls the sensations to an extent. Like I've heard people explain EMDR, I think it is. It's like a rapid eye movement thing, like it desensitizes you. That's what I would describe breathwork has done for me. It has released those negative, lower vibrational energies and emotions that were stored in my body and associated with events. It literally leaves. I can't actually go back into them no matter how much I try. And then through the high vibrational activations, obviously what I've got is like love, peace, freedom, joy, giggling, happiness. And so now I've got these new sensations. And so then I embody that, and it's so much easier to embody because the yucky stuff's gone. And so one, that like hunger sensations is so much less because you've released it. This is so deep that it's not gone. It's not gone. To this day, it's not gone. But it's less, much, much, much less potent. And then two, because I've met that girl, can you imagine that I now go, too bad, little girl. Like I'm going to abandon you too. I'm abandoning the ship. It is too much. You're right. Like it is too much. And I too can't sit with you in this. And we're just going to have to keep poisoning and numbing and escaping. And you're in it alone. Sorry. No. Once you've gone in there, you can't really do that. That doesn't become possible anymore. So the other night we were at a friend's house and socializing, and there was rugby on, and everyone is smoking around me. And like, obviously, and I'm drinking. And so it's just that part in me wakes up. And so I'm clocking it in the moment, but I'm feeling it so much less, right? Like it's not that hunger. I can feel it, but it's dull. then before I go to entertain a thought, all I do is I drop back into on that carpet, on those mats through those 5 sessions. And that's what it took. I don't think I would have gotten over this one, not vaping with any less. And I go back to how I met her in different moments and different times, but all on the same origin wound, which was basically you're in it alone. And no one knows anything around you. No one can soothe you. No one can meet you. No one can hold you. No one can give you warmth. No one can give you love. They are so busy numbing and prioritizing their pleasure glands and their reactiveness and what they need to do to survive and live. And it's you. Then I just go back into that moment and I'm like, well, fuck it. You're not alone. And guess what? I can sit here and I will pour myself another gin and I will inhale that secondhand smoke deeply, but I will not go back. And so the question, what were your deeper wounds, and also was deep healing necessary? I can't speak for anyone or anything because there's also 2 types of people in this world. There is the person that can just leave addictions and leave things and just move on. My grandpa did it. My brother did it, like with smoking. Often those people will replace it with something else, but that's beside the point. Obviously, that's the real key, not to replace it with anything else, to learn to self-soothe, which is now my process through that whenever that trigger arises. To self-soothe, to self-hold, to self-warm, love, nurture, safety, support. But there's the people that can just leave it, or there's the people like me that there's no motherfucking way I could have. Like, no way I could have. And so, yes, for me on vaping, absolutely. For me on any of the progresses I've made, anytime I've followed my higher self, anywhere with actually transformationally going, yes, is my opinion. So I'm probably going to stop there with the questions. There's a few more, but hopefully that's given what's needed to have given. I'm going to trust that's enough. And I hope that this has helped you in whatever way, shape or form. There's been so many people that's been activated by this question, and I'm probably just too in it at the moment to really analyze where it's coming from for everyone. And I just don't need to really. I surrendered to the fact that I activated something in everyone. I shared my journey. There were so many beautiful responses and people reaching out and just showing, some just showing love and support and nurturing, some showing care. Everyone, like, so much empathy and compassion, and then all these questions. The clearest way that I can explain it is the activations that it's made in people, whether that's addiction or whether that's other blocks or anything. So I trust that this has given every single one of you whatever it is that you need in this moment. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode, where we motherfucking grow and expand beyond the shit that holds us back. And we step into our higher selves and our highest lives and identities, and we claim whatever it is that we want from life and business and relationships. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful week, and I can't wait to chat to you next time. Mwah.